This is the title sheet for the 28th of February, Saturday night, at the Canal Club across from James Beach. There's also Danny's Deli. James Evans and Daniel Samakow, for a second time, are hosting my slideshow on Venice. I shot the slides from my huge exhibits on Venice in 1995 and 2000, with huge events for months at a time. They're all black and white, and I will, with this slideshow, will be documented tonight by the great Keith Stevenson. Here's the little flyer that I did. I don't have the big poster with me, but the poster and the flyer have been basically the same all these years that I've done the slideshow. I did it once 2005 at our theater, 2006, and 2009 at our theater at Pacific Resident Theater, which is 30 years old this year, at 703 Venice Boulevard. Here's one of those posters. This is from the 2009, just to show an example. But all the footage now will be of the people and then the show. Thank you. I want to say that we have the fabulous Orson Bean and some of his glorious family here, because the family is large. And also, I want to recognize Keith Stevenson, who is our wonderful videographer tonight. Keith Stevenson is part of our Pacific Resident Theater company, which is 30 this year in Venice at 703 Venice Boulevard in May. And Keith is one of my very, very favorite actors, but he is a genius comedic writer without any cruelty in the comedy. His plays of Out There on Fried Meat Ridge Road, Fried Christmas, and The Unfriable Meatness of Being are just fabulous. And if you ever get a chance to see them, go! He's shooting the video to Keith. He is also a fabulous filmmaker. I am speaking up, and I'm not going to yell. So, okay. I'm going to turn off the lights as best as I can. Watch my legs when I go past there. Okay, thank you. I should add quickly. This show, this was done in 1990. I've done many events in Venice. In 1995, which took 3 years, and in 2000, which took 3 years, I did huge events at the Venice Library with these photographers' works that you will see of the slides that I shot from their photographs. Teddy, who is here tonight, is Frank Talbott's son. Frank Talbott, and his wife Pat, are fabulous. They moved to Page, Arizona some years ago. And Frank was in town and got deathly ill, which is very rare because they are so healthy. And I've put a few of the portraits that he took of the children and me when we were younger, much younger. And Teddy brought the two contact sheets in 1995. For that show, I did two shows, 1995 and 2000, at the Venice Library, with months of events. Frank has so many great contact sheets of every shot. It was so perfect. And one of them I said, Frank, why don't you, as if he had nothing else to do in life, why don't you go and shoot every frame again in Venice? And he did. So the two contact sheets, which you may not touch, and the portraits, which you may not touch, are up there on the sill. If you want to see some of my Xeroxes of some of my watercolors, they're hanging over the mirror on the green cloth. I want to thank the fabulous James Evans and the fabulous Daniel Samakow for, again, hosting this slideshow. They own the 3 restaurants, James Beach, Canal Club, and Danny's Deli. And I did this show here in 2012. They were supposed to see it. They both were deathly ill. So that's one reason we are doing it again. James will be here for the 8 o'clock show. He can't be here for the 6 o'clock show. This is Anthony Friedkin. He is a very well-known still photographer for tremendous amounts of, so to speak, Hollywood films. And this was taken in Malibu in 1999. This is a picture of POP in 1968, and I can't quite frame them each. They all are a little bit different here. POP, of course, was Pacific Ocean Park Pier, and you will see some of his photographs of the end of it also as we go along here. That was 1968. This is Craig Stesick, who's one of the first, so to speak, Z-Boys and Dogtown people. And he's also a photographer. He's a skateboarder and surfer. And these are all photographs still of Anthony Friedkin. Here's another one, which is also there at POP in 1973. Oh no, this is the Surfer's Roost. No, that's Rod's. Forgot to announce Rod here. Okay, this is Craig Stesick again. I think it's coming down on Marine. No? Bicknell. Could be Bicknell. So this is the last big fire at Pacific Ocean Park. So 1971, I think, was the last big fire. I always get it. Some people think it's 72. I saw the fire. I was on the hill in Ocean Park. So I want you to think where he was when he took this photograph. I want you to look at where you think he was. Yeah. His photograph, a number of his wave photographs are over at James Beach in the main dining room and have been there for some months, unless they changed it yesterday or something, which they could have done. These photographs in life are much better than the slides, of course. POP after the big fire. This is Big Wave. It's off of the Venice Pier. And this is representative of a number of the photographs that are over at James Beach as we speak. Whoops. Another one. These are 1980.
Is this Frank Talbott?
No, this is all Anthony Friedkin. We will go from portrait to portrait of each artist. This is shooting a film on Venice Beach. This is up obviously by Rose Avenue. Actually, this is near this, from Rose Avenue, looking toward the Sea Castle. And 1982. There are a number of people here that may not know that the entire Venice Beach is a fake beach.
What?
The entire Venice Beach is a fake beach. The oceanfront walk used to be the oceanfront walk. The city of Los Angeles squanders and squalors our taxes in many ways, one of which is they pump in and truck in sand, definitely after World War II, but they started that actually also when they started to fill in the original canals. The canals that exist now are not the original canals of Venice. They were started 6 months later. And the city of Los Angeles in 1927, of course, started to cement in the original canal system that Abbot Kinney built. This is also shooting on the same day, shooting on the Venice Beach. There will be several shots of Wayne Holbrook in his studio, who was an artist that Anthony liked tremendously and was friends with. This is 1979. There'll be a couple of other images of this, but look at his painting and the topic at hand, so to speak. This is still Wayne Holbrook's studio. I wasn't allowed to show this at the library. It was considered extremely scandalous. Extremely scandalous. They wouldn't allow it. You can't believe the way they do things. This is a detail from the History is Myth mural in 1990. This, of course, was along Speedway at Market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's happened to that mural?
Got painted over. This is Anthony did for some years quite a number of workshops and working with fellows in prison. And this is one photograph that he took of one of such people. Here we are back at Ozone and the Oceanfront Walk for the Israel Levine Center, which still exists and is quite a large, for this area, senior center. This is that digital domain, which used to be, it still might be, but I think maybe Google has become larger. The largest employer of people in Venice, digital domain at 300 rows. And this was a still that he shot during one of the films or videos that Michael Jackson was doing. And the year was 1998. And this is a shot of the model for the Titanic, which was done, all that work was done at Digital Domain for the film. I guess that was the exact title for the film also. This is through the window. There's a shop, I think it still exists, at Hill and Main Street in Ocean Park. First of all, to give you, those of you that don't know, which a number of you here do not know, Venice and Ocean Park were the same city. Venice was a division of Ocean Park. When Ocean Park joined the city of Santa Monica in 1911, Venice became its own city. In October 1925, a vote was taken, although it was highly managed, in Venice, and Venice joined the city of Los Angeles, which has been its demise, in my opinion, of course, ever since, but I can't help that. And we do the best that we can. So this is the shop called, I call it Jadis, but there are people that call it Jadis. So you call it as you wish. And this is the detail of the subhuman mural, 1999, that was on Pacific, right next to the Vietnam veterans listings.
Bus company?
Pardon me?
Where the buses are?
Where the buses, yes, precisely, right next to that. A shot of the old graffiti pit, which was part of the huge cement cattle ranch that the city of Los Angeles built for picnicking, and for the original Venice Pavilion, which had no roof on it. Once they put a cement roof on it, it really demised tremendously because it just became rather a piss pot. And also the sound just echoed in there tremendously. But I produced many things there, including all kinds of programs for the public and many theater programs, and including the Free Venice Theater, which produced 4 plays there. One of which was called Zorba the Freak, which has the most famous song that's sung by Sylvia Cohan, written by David Scott, called Moon Over Venice. It's a fabulous, and Susie Williams, our songbird, knows that song also. And this is the portrait of Skip Emblom. Skip Emblom and Scott Anderson, I think is his last name, if I recall still, formed Aquatech, which is a surfboard making and repairing place. It's extremely dangerous and poisonous and polluting work. And that's Skip, who's also made tremendous, many commercials, I guess, over recent decades. We're now going to skip to Charles Brittin. Charles Brittin went to heaven about 4.5 years ago. His entire life work, so to speak, which is massive, is at the Getty Center. There are people that have prints. I don't know all those people, but Craig Kroll and his fabulous gallery, he is my favorite gallery and gallery owner. Up at Bergamo Station, has some prints still of Charles and has the books on Charles's life up there. Charles underwent quite a number of several years, I should say, of dialysis. And this is a self-portrait of his looking like that, and taken in late 1998. We're back at POP, the Pacific Ocean Park Pier. This is 1955.
Tunaville.
Pardon me?
It's called Tunaville.
Oh, Tunaville. Thank you. And here's a view to the Dragon Slide, also the same year. This is the Caged Horse, also at POP Pier, 1955. Charles started shooting in the Venice area about 1954. In fact, one of the shots in here is of 1954. Garbage cans. Here we are near Windward area, I believe. Unless it's the Ellison Apartments, because I can never read that up there. And this is 1954-55, he said. And there are cans that are emptied.
So recycling.
Well, we actually, remember, those of us who are over a certain age, I mean, we did actually recycle, and we returned bottles for sure, because we paid a deposit on every bottle. And also people had fireplaces in those days a lot, and so a lot of paper was burned or used as, you would shred it, you would tear it by hand, of course, for kitty cats, or for beds for dogs or cats and things of that sort, or for the parakeets, or something of that sort. The back of Windward. Do not throw rubbish here. Do not throw rubbish here, it says. Parking, 35 cents. An oceanfront walk doorway, rooms for rent.
Oh, it's a city, yeah. They used to call it the slum by the sea.
Yes, they did. These are the Venice Beach slides and play area on the beach up by Rose Avenue. There was another set of these down toward Washington near the pier. The Venice Pier was built 65, I think, when the Marina Channel officially opened in 65. The Marina del Rey, the largest man-made harbor, small craft harbor in the world, at least at the time. And I love these also because I don't like the modern things because I'm such an old broad, but also because you could climb on everything and climb up the structures with your small hands. They could get around them. If you were like age 4 or 5, you could get up and down. Now they make everything so thickly, and they don't put slides anymore either. He has many of these. He lived down there, Avenue 54. The Venice Peninsula, it is still not the Marina Peninsula. It is the Venice Peninsula. And the streets, where we are, the streets still go by numbers from here to Washington. But when they built over that to build the road of Washington to come over further, so that the canal system comes under Washington Street, all the streets from Washington south were still Avenue 31, Avenue 36, Avenue 50, so that the channel is about Avenue 60. The Marina del Rey channel of nowadays is I am one of the people that worked with a core of other people to get the oil wells out of here. And you will see, of course, the dams. Soon, in a while, you will see the dams and oil well, especially in Frank's photos later, on the beach, out from the Sidewalk Cafe, out from Horizon. Yeah. This is, let me see this one. It's early. No, this is 50s. It's off, 55, yeah. Well, first of all, this is brought in sand.
Yeah, okay.
This is after they filled in this fake beach. So it's, you'll see some clarity of that in a bit. These are 4 views on the Venice Peninsula of where he lived. You can see Speedway there with the oil wells on either side on the lower left. And inside his place also, there, Avenue 54-ish. Here's a view from the Playa del Rey bluffs. You see the channel had begun. The Marina del Rey harbor and the channel was started around 1958. The plans were started before that. There are many problems. It's not well built. But it wasn't officially opened until 65.
Bologna Creek.
Yes, and the Bayona or Bologna Creek is there. So you're looking.
Lincoln Boulevard?
No. You're looking down at Playa del Rey. That's the main road along the ocean in Playa del Rey, with what is it? Is it Culver that comes in there and swings around to Vista del Mar, right?
Yeah.
And in the far distance, toward the right-hand corner, you can see very fuzzily, because it's not in the focus, you can see tall oil wells. You can see how undeveloped. I was one of the original group of the Friends of Bayona Wetlands that saved the initial 305 acres of the wetlands acres over in Playa del Rey, which has now led to the other combating groups of the Bayona Institute and the Bayona this and the Bayona that. But, we did that. This is a photo of Robert Alexander and Wallace Berman. This is the first day of Berman's text in these two. The next shot you'll see the last day in 1957, and these are people, of course, of the Temple of Man, which some people don't know about the Temple of Man. The Temple of Man is within you, but there is an actual. It's actually official. There's an officialness to it, but it doesn't. That is not touted. It's a Temple of Man, and Bob Alexander founded that when he came to Venice when he was about 10 on his own, and lived here, and then he went back and forth between here and San Francisco, and was part of San Francisco Beat era. And in San Francisco, he met a pastor that became a great friend, and that pastor kind of inspired him to make the Temple of Man, which does not exist except in yourself. And he did that in 1960. So the first actual Temple of Man, if you want to call it that, was his home here on Cabrillo Avenue here in Venice, which they don't live there anymore. Bob and Anita died. Of course, we all get to do that. We all get to die. No, this person, not him. Okay. There's the second day, or the last day. That's Wallace Berman's son, Josh. This was the text. When the Getty Center did an enormous show in 2012, actually it went on for 2 years, I think, called, James, what was the exact title? I can't remember, Time something. It was highly based on many of the artists of the Temple of Man in the various art mediums that many of them did. There's Wally facing the camera. Shirley is pregnant. They are in a long dress. Bob Alexander and his wife Anita on Speedway, of course, and the near Avenue 54 on the Venice Peninsula, and that's 1958. He calls his Venice party A and B, I think. So here's A Venice party at Charles's place, and there's B at Charles's place after the party. This is Anita O'Day, who lived in his building also right there at Speedway and Avenue 54.
Jazz singer.
Excuse me?
Jazz singer.
Yes, Anita O'Day, the famous jazz singer. Charles, though, when he was alive, when I did the show the first few times, he said that she had her drugs delivered. She never had to go out for them. They were delivered to her. This is Susie and Tom Hicks down there on the oceanfront walk at Avenue 54, 55. Remember, the oceanfront walk went down the entire peninsula. It didn't stop at Washington. It was down the entire peninsula, but the powers that be of the Venice Peninsula have made sure that that has not existed in modern times, one way or another. I'm sure I don't know all the ways, I just know some of the ways. I think Susie was 14 when this photo was taken. I think she was 14. Yeah, and he was like 22. She could have been 16. And this is a Venice backyard. And this is a bit inland, not right at the ocean. This is John Altoon's mailbox. John Altoon was quite well known even then in the so-called beat era. Oh. And this is John Altoon with, what is it? It's not Lawrence Lipton, is it? The name who wrote, I can't remember the name of the author who wrote one of the famous books on the beat era. And now we come to the two last shots of the photos that I showed of Brittin's massive work. This is from A Touch of Evil, the Orson Welles film in 1957. Yeah.
You're a mess, honey.
And this is, of course, at Venice and Pacific. I mean, Windward and Pacific. Yeah. And this is a shot. They made it look like Mexico. They just dressed it up. It's Venice, California, is where it was shot. For Venice West Cafe. These two. There are two shots, I think. The Venice West Cafe was first, to my knowledge, there are discussions about this. John Canavan was the first person to kind of start it, but Stuart Perkoff is given usually the credit for it. They were friends, no doubt, and they formed the Venice West Cafe at 7 Dudley. And then they ran it from 58 to 62, I believe. Then John Haig, who's in the center of this image, and his wife Anna from Roma, and they were married in Roma, ran it from 62 to 66. And of course, the city of Los Angeles and some local people also made sure that the police just completely ill-treated everything and damned them, and they had to close. So the last shot here will be of that. So the no more poetry, etc. There are other shots of this, of Charles's as well as some other people, but they were hauled off to jail a number of times, but a number of us have been hauled off to jail for other things illegally also over the decades. Rod Bradley is here tonight. He's in the back in his wonderful, quiet way, and he is a fabulous photographer, has thousands of images of Venice and Los Angeles and many other areas, and he's also a documentary, an Emmy-winning filmmaker, and he has written a number of books, and he's a great poet. This is his self-portrait. This is where the canals used to, and the existing canals, not the original, between South and North Venice Boulevard. And we used to walk under there all the time, as well as over them. And this self-portrait was 1989. This is another shot of those. And those of you in the back, you cannot read the graffiti, so I will read it to you. On the left, mostly it says, "I love pussy." On the other side, it says, "Yes, Jesus saves." And somehow, if I stay open, there's such humor in that. It just tells every side of every story, both ways. This is called For Sale. Rod, isn't this Rose's place on West Washington? I think it was Rose's place on West Washington. It was an antique, it was a thrift shop.
It looks like it has the same brickwork as Dudley.
It could be, but there was a lot of buildings that had those, yeah. He calls this Venice Peninsula Fiesta. And I actually love this shot with the oil well, the driftwood, the huge trunk of driftwood, and the leg and foot with the open window. This is the Dell Bridge going over Sherman Canal of the existing Venice canals at this time. This was shot in 1971. Those of you behind cannot see the graffiti under the people sitting on the bridge, but it says, "The human race is great." I happen to be a core person and organized all the art stuff and music and stuff, a lot, for the Venice Canal Festivals, of which there were 7. I did 6 of them. And this was put on at this in 1971. They were held always in mid-September in the years that they were held, 69 into 75. 76 was the canal funeral. No, we had a big canal funeral because we knew the writing was more than on the wall. This is called Muscle Beach, 1972. But look, so you see the bodybuilder there, but you see, this is, the original Muscle Beach was actually just south of the Santa Monica Pier. That was the old original Muscle Beach. The second Muscle Beach, which is the one most people know about, is the Venice one. The modern cement cattle ranch that they've made for the Muscle Beach in the last decade or something, decade and a half, was not existing. This was the Muscle Beach in Venice. But take a look, if you can, squint your eyes, slowly, over at Avenue 20, there's a mural on that building, and you'll see that mural in a few minutes. It's also on the flyer poster that I put the photos of. This is 5 ladies on a bench. This is north of Clubhouse and up toward Rose. And of course, you will see pretty soon also a photo or 2 of the Cadillac Hotel. Ben Gross had that hotel, and he housed a tremendous amount of World War I and World War II European refugees. And a number of people might remind you of that. But also, there were a lot of the elderly people from that conclave that would swim every day, but they were very smart. They knew not to sit out in the open sun. And of course, we did not have a lot of clothes then. You had a coat or 2. You put on the coat you had. You had 3 or 4 pairs of shoes if you were lucky. You put on the shoes you had. A lot of people did not have beach clothes. Even if they swam, they would have a suit, and they would swim and then get out and get dried and then get dressed. This is oceanfront walk at Brooks, looking down Brooks to the oceanfront walk. Notice the lack of hordes of people and hordes of dogs, commandos. Dogs have not made problems here. People can make problems with their dogs, but and here we have, of course, the Lafayette Cafe on the right, with the superb Arturo, who was the main fellow of it, the restaurant, the Lafayette Cafe. And looking at the benches and the kiosks, which were wonderful to sit on, and especially for the infirm. So that was at Westminster. Manny's Market is on your left in that image. And here's a shot of the Cadillac Hotel. The Cadillac Hotel has kept its name. Ben Gross, in '76, when the biggest hit of the demise of Venice in many ways hit, he held on as much as he could until he died to keep the people, the elderly, housed there. As we know, a lot of the elderly and the infirm or handicapped, when they're moved out at age 85, 95, 102, they die very quickly usually because their support systems are completely gone. That's the oceanfront walk in front of it, and around the corner to your right, so to speak, would be the modern Cadillac Hotel, which is an hotel. But it
was actually a lobby. That was a lobby.
This was the lobby entry area, and there was the bakery next door too. Oh, here, I have to adjust this now. This is a photo of Swami X on the oceanfront walk, who was a very well-known ranter. He could rant, I suppose, 8 hours a day at times on the oceanfront walk. Yeah, it's by Sunset. It's out from Sunset on the oceanfront walk. Okay, let me do this again. This is Uncle Bill Crawford, I think, yes, 1971, a great blues player who was well known here. Of course, it's a Volkswagen behind him. Jay the Bubble Man. The year on this is 1972. I don't know if you can see from the back, but squint your eyes, you can see very large bubbles. And this is before there were modern tools to make such things. This is a section of the Venice in Snow mural. I have a lot of footages of a number of things here on my home movies, but I shot the Venice Fine Arts Squad painting this a couple of days. So I have some home footage of that. But it's really fabulous. And it snowed when the children were young. My son is 50, so when the children were young, it snowed 4 times in Venice.
It really snowed?
It snowed. But it was fairyland snow. It was not like the slush of Chicago or New York City. It was fairyland snow. And only one time did it last overnight at all, just barely. And one of the times it only lasted about 4 hours, but it was just heaven. And of course, the children were beside themselves.
Was that in the 60s?
It was late 60s and early 70s, yes.
The name Matchbox up there?
Yes.
That was a girls' bar.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. I would not know because I didn't even have a drink until I was 52 or something.
Great name, huh?
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's at Brooks.
It was at Brooks.
It was at Brooks, yeah.
It was at Brooks, right. This is part of the covering, the wall covering of the Damson Well out from Horizon, just north of Windward, a bit north of Market. And this is this is the 71. It's called Four Surfers. This is taken out from the 23rd Street jetty. This is before there was a modern lifeguard station that has been built, of course, on a fake beach, which the ocean keeps digging away at the sand every year, and they replace it all year. But this is before the major lifeguard house at Venice, so to speak, Venice Blvd. You can see the Venice Pier, those of you who can squint enough, slightly and very, it's not in focus, to the left of the young boy who's on the left. And I wish my slide were better because this is a sunset shot. It's called Last Stop at Venice Beach, 1974. with a Volkswagen on the water because we would get some high tides. And this is a self-portrait of Frank taken after he left Venice. The last house that he and Pat had was 2314, Ted? 2312 Ocean Avenue, not Pacific, but Ocean, over near the library. Looked straight down Carroll Canal. But this is where they live. That's their backyard. And the lake, Lake Powell is behind them. So and Frank, they've done many works with wildlife, et cetera, but Frank also leads water rafting excursions. Here's the Venice Tram Company. See the tram? These existed even into the late 60s and I think to 71. There were trams that went up and down the oceanfront walk. And of course, they were extremely convenient for the infirm and the elderly to ride. This is, I always forget the exact street. I think it's Horizon. It's what, thank you, Harlan. Wavecrest. And in this shot, you see one of the golf cart. I always think it's old Jack Leslie from the canals, but I can't swear that it was. But behind, next to that is somebody on a bicycle. And then this is the oceanfront walk again. And then we have a Venice tram that's filled with people, actually, behind that. Jack Leslie was a fabulous man. He came to the Los Angeles area when he was 21 in 1900. And he said to me in his life that he saw the first street pavement at all, which was part of Sunset Boulevard. He lived on Linney Canal, and he had, of course, his lot, and like we used to do, he grew almost all his own vegetables and fruits, and he fished almost every day. And he fed his dog and cat the same things. And then they could also catch them. There used to be wildlife here also. This is the Venice department store on Windward at Pacific. Look on the northwest corner. For those of you in theater, it reminds me, my visits to the inside of it were very much like Orpheus Descending, the little store in Orpheus Descending, where everything takes place, by Tennessee Williams.
You used to call this downtown Venice.
Yes, downtown Venice. Yes.
That was parking.
This is actually, no, this is, it was the one next, they tore down the gas house by now. This was next to it. It was where eventually Doug Christmas opened a gallery. But it's gone. It used to be next to where down from where the Sidewalk Cafe is, south of the Sidewalk Cafe, so to speak. So you're looking southish on the oceanfront walk. This is the oceanfront walk. This is called Batman, the person on the bike. This is kind of middle of the oceanfront walk from Venice to Rose. But I want you to take a look at the environment and take a look at the oceanfront walk, because there will be another picture to compare it to in a while. This is Walk Street. John, is it Clubhouse? Clubhouse. Looking toward the oceanfront walk. The Brick Place, which still exists and is right. There's all a bunch of. It's mostly a shopping area now. People used to live there.
Oh, it's
Oh yeah,
housing.
people lived there, yes. It's famous also for housing Charlie Chaplin and other people, but
Ah.
yeah. On the oceanfront walk. And Frank calls this Aragon to Cheetah.
Navy.
This is at Navy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. This is the old Avalon Ballroom and then it became the Aragon Ballroom, and then it became the Cheetah. It is the Cheetah in this shot. And it was torn down basically with the POP pier. It's also where they shot the film long ago called They Shoot Horses, Don't They?
Also nighttime.
This is Muscle Beach. This is called Members Only, I think. Yes, 1967 in Venice. Even look at the gymnastics equipment behind the cement pit, so to speak. You could climb up the poles by hand. You didn't have to always climb the rings or do the bars per se. Now these two prints are here. The print that I told you about, the contact sheet, this is the first one in 1964 that Frank shot on the Venice Peninsula, and you really can't pay attention. It's too hard to see each frame here. Teddy might be able to show you up closer the two prints he's brought with him. But you can see there are no fortresses on either side of the Grand Canal. You can see the lighthouse bridge on the far right top frame that goes over the Grand Canal. And this is 1994, the same frame for frame shot that Frank took on the Venice Peninsula. This is called Running Man. See the tall, white-ish with black spirals. That was the Damson oil well on the Venice beach for many, many decades. The rocks that you see, the darkness that you see kind of left, 2/3 down on the left, is the Venice breakwater. Harlan, correct me if I'm wrong on this. The Venice breakwater was built after the huge storm in April 1906, which destroyed there were several piers in Venice, but the main pier was there off of Windward, and that pier was destroyed, and it got rebuilt very quickly, actually. But the breakwater was built, which took some time, of course, to be built. It is my theory. I'm the only one that I know that has this theory. The earthquake was April 6th?
1933.
No, in San Francisco. I think the big earthquake was in 86, and then the big storm that destroyed these piers was April 18th. I think it's related. I just feel like there was such agitation in the whole environment of the state and the ocean currents, they just come down here so much out of the west. I don't know. It's just a theory. This is called Homeboys, also Venice Beach. Probably around Avenue 24-ish, off of Avenue 24. Could be 25, 26. North of the Venice Pier. Oh, and this is called Strollers. don't know how to. We have a synagogue right on. We have two synagogues in Venice. One is the Mishkan Tefillo at just this side of Maryjane on Main Street. And there's one just behind these people, and I always forget the title of it. Two men on a bench on the oceanfront walk. There's another tram. Oh, that's the other synagogue on the oceanfront walk.
And the building next to it is the Phoenix House.
Oh, that's the name of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking of the more modern. Oh, I know. Yes, I see what you're saying. Thank you. Thank you. I was thinking of another building entirely.
I love those street lights.
10 cents.
They were 10 cents in my lifetime. That's all I know.
Was it cheap at that time?
Well, for 10 cents for us is a lot of money. We never took it. We never took it. But I was young and the children were young. We didn't need to take it. So,
I love the absence of crowds.
oh, the absence of crowd. I'm sorry.
When did Venice Beach Boardwalk become, the insane
Okay,
place it is today?
I want to make, because I love Jerryan, but we spent tend to talk of the boardwalk, but it is the oceanfront walk. It's not a boardwalk. And it used to be brick. And so that's what happened originally. This one, hold on, sweetheart. Hold on. 69. Okay.
How close to oceanfront walk did the water actually come?
The oceanfront.
Before they put the sign.
There's a famous old poster during Abbot Kinney's early times of Venice. He died in 1920, for those of you who do not know. He was born in 1850. Venice Beach was called the safest beach. And it was one of the safest beaches probably on this entire western coast of this United States, because it was a wetlands beach, which is how the canals got dug out of wetlands. The current canals are dug out of wetlands. The entire Marina del Rey and the channel are dug out of wetlands. The beach went inch by inch by inch by inch by inch, which is what wetlands beaches do. They are not cliff beaches, palisade beaches, or big rock beaches. They are wetlands beaches. So you would walk out 400 feet, 500 feet. So if you were a baby at a foot tall, you could be totally fine in the 2 inches, 4 inches of water. Because that's what would reach, in general, the oceanfront walk. And this is called Beach Walkers. It's just another nice comment on the changing of the ways of the youth and the aged. This doesn't show in my slide. It's called Dog Catcher. The young long dress woman, the girl, has picked up her black poodle and it's against her blackish dress. So in those days, there were not tons of dogs on the actual beach out. There were more dogs if there were dogs toward the oceanfront walk, but not out at the beach usually, and the water. But notice the policeman's attire. So notice the policeman's attire compared to today. It's policeman. Their attire and also their stances. And even though some of them had a pistol, some of them, they just had a basic pistol. But it's not that the police problems in this city have been, and continue. Whether they're good people or on the force or not, there are still huge problems with it in general. Hold on, honey. That was 69. This is called Beach Lovers. This is 1970. This is called Evening Waiter. We are, you can't see, but this is south of Santa Monica Pier.
You can see POP in the background.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean POP. I mean POP. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is Mark's Market. This is at the north end of the existing finger canals. That's Carroll Canal water we see. Mark's Market is where Emily Winters, who is with us tonight, and I founded a women's artist collective in 1973, and I did too much, as usual, but Emily came a year later when I mentioned, literally, at her first meeting, that there could be a funding for the paint and scaffolding to do a mural that women would do. We did that mural, we slaved for years. It took 19 months with all the public hearings and the court hearings and going to court. At any rate, Mark's Market was the market first, and Mark and his wife were Turkish Catholics who had been in the German World War II concentration camps because they had helped their Jewish friends. And they still, of course, had their tattooed numbers on their bodies. That market became John's Market. This is at South Venice Boulevard and Dell Avenue. And we redid the mural in 1966, 1997 when it was John's Market, which was also quite scary. Of course, I was hauled off to jail illegally a few times, but for doing things like murals, etc. But my life was threatened by a number of people here for doing the mural twice. Each time it was repeated. The people some of them kept up their track records. It was just amazing. Let's see. Oh, this is Tony Alamo's forehead. Tony Alamo is kneeling in front of some of his followers. He was a kind of guru preacher person. This is on the oceanfront walk up by Rose Avenue area. Oh no, it's a pavilion, I think.
Windward Avenue.
Windward.
St. Mark's in the background.
Yeah, St. Mark's. No, I know. St. Charles.
St. Charles, you're right.
St. Charles. That one I do know. That one. See, it takes all of us. It takes all of us.
Takes a village.
It does. It
At
does.
this age to remember anything.
Right. This is called Keep Off because those of you who cannot see in the very back, there's an official whited sign that says, big letters, Keep Off. This is when they built after they built the 23rd Street jetty to help preserve the more modern, this big lifeguard house that we have there at the beach near the corner, near Venice Blvd and the beach. Because, of course, the ocean keeps taking the rocks and the sand away. Because the ocean knows what it needs to do. And let's see, Keep Off. So that was 1971. Here we are. There are the buildings at Rose Avenue area. What is different about the oceanfront walk area, so to speak? The area bike path. Yours truly was one of the core people that worked to have a bike path, because if we were going to have this fake beach, let's have a bike path. No, thank me. We wanted a bike path, not a velodrome. It has become often a velodrome, besides a velodrome for the dogs racers. The original, I wrote the petition for it, and I got the city hall hearings for it. And it was passed quickly by downtown. And it was built fairly quickly, oddly enough. It's asphalt, not cement, notice that. The original plan that we had wanted, that I wanted especially also, but we all wanted, is we wanted it pebbled so that people would ride their bike, not race their bike. But of course we had no idea that everything would become rocket science, and it wouldn't matter if it were pebbled now or not, because the bicycles are built to be rocket speed on almost any surface whatsoever.
Is it true that it was difficult to get permission from the private beach clubs to go through the sand?
That was after. The original bike path of all these bike paths is the one we did that in 1971, in January, when I wrote the petition. This started it. So all the others had to deal with other entities. Okay. Let's see now. Oh, this is Doll, Lady, and Prince. That's her son on the oceanfront walk. What are we near here? Wavecrest, maybe?
Well, that,
Oh, the Lafayette Cafe is there, isn't it?
you guys on the corner, those apartments were destroyed and they put up one of those awful things in front of it.
Yes, they did.
Yeah,
Yes.
Those were apartments that ran
Yes,
along.
yes, they were fabulous
They were
apartments.
incredible.
They were fabulous, yes. No, she lived there.
Oh, okay.
Doll Lady lived there, to my knowledge. I mean, I would see her go in and out of there.
That monstrosity that's there now.
Yeah. Okay, where am I? Oh, here's the synagogue on the oceanfront walk, Bay City Synagogue. You think I could remember the title? I think this is called Winter Light. This is taken under the arches at the Sidewalk Cafe. This is called Sun Cloud. This is also taken out in front of the Sidewalk Cafe on the oceanfront walk. And this is twilight on the Linney Canal, actually. In the existing canals, the remaining canals. 1974. No, so 1975. This is called two-way traffic. The Dell bridges that go over the main road where vehicles could go were designed, of course, never for motor vehicles. But we used to travel them completely two-way all the time, day and night, completely. The powers that be that have built the fortresses have demanded it to go one direction, and then they changed their mind some decades ago and demanded it go the other direction. Just as they have put in private drains with all their private streets, and they have made their pollutions complete. You notice on the other side, at the corners of the bridge areas that you see on the right and the left, it looks like it's vacant. That's actually city property, and the people who have built their fortresses there have taken that over, but it is city property. And you could still easily go two ways because you could see each other. And that's what we used to do. But the bridges were built. There were the walk bridges that, of course, ponies and donkeys and mules could go over, as well as people and rats and raccoons and foxes, etc. But these were built originally for carriages and horse-drawn and mule-drawn and donkey-drawn transportation. Yes, it's at Howland Canal. And it's looking toward Washington, what we call Washington Street. Wait, do I have that right? Because I know that building. I have to think where. I'll rethink that. You can't really see this well. This was another of the proof sheets, contact sheets of Frank's. This is taken with infrared light camera. It's really fabulous, and I wish I could have every person go up and look at it individually, but I can't. But it was in the exhibit. These are canal photographs. There are a number of corners and walk bridges, especially shown in this sheet. Here's another one. This is taken with a 2 1/4 Hasselblad. You can see these a bit better, but not a lot. This is in January and March of 1983, we had big storms here. That of course, the pier that the city built in 1965 was completely ruined, and so it took them almost 12 years to actually rebuild it, a solid 10. But you see how the sea wants to take up the. You see the tall structure is the modern lifeguard house near Venice Blvd, at the end of Venice Boulevard, end of 23rd Street, so to speak, 22nd Street. And the restroom is the building kind of center-ish to the right-ish. And you see that the parking lot has been torn up by the storm. And this is one of Frank's shots of that. And here's another one also. Of course, it took out the bathrooms and everything else. I was privileged in my younger days. I still swim every day, but when those storms happened, a number of us went up, to watch. I didn't dare. I could not believe it. Surfers out at midnight and 2 a.m. on these 50-foot waves at the piers, with entire trees being thrown, entire poles and Santa Monica Pier. It was the debris, it was just insane. I don't think any of them got hurt, but we would run under the pier between the waves, quickly, very quickly. And of course, it made wetland lagoons all in the middle of the sand, so the children could swim perfectly at ease. I could swim even in the lagoons. They were that deep. Yeah, they got to 3 feet deep, at least, in the middle of the sand. And I think we're almost there. Yeah, this is another photo. There might be one more.
Is that Santa Monica?
No, that's Venice Pier. That's Venice Pier. What, honey?
Looks like a little building.
Yeah, there used to be a little building, and there used to be a restroom out there, and also a bait shop.
Really?
Yep. All got destroyed, yeah. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. This is Frank Talbott's son. Frank Talbott, as you know, if you didn't hear me say, Rod Bradley.
Sorry, Dad.
And Frank had to be, got deathly ill, as I said.
He really wanted to be here, but he fell ill, and he's going to be okay. He just had to be home. So I'm sorry, because he would have liked to have been here.
He really would have loved it, yeah. And Rod Bradley, this is he. And he also has thousands of images.
Yeah, I'm a Venice exile now, but it's nice to have at least some images from the old days return. And in fact, I've had a piece of good fortune in a little book called, limited edition, called West Washington, which is now Abbott Kinney, has been published by an outfit called Junk Food Clothing, which is on Abbott Kinney.
Yes.
It's open there. And some of my photographs are there. But anyway.
But I have...
So I do miss Venice a lot.
We're actually in the process of doing a coffee table book of my father's work. These images represent a small portion of the images that he has, and just look for it probably at the end of this year.
I would like to mention, I have a sheet, and I put Rod, where it says Rod, talks about Rod. It has his email. It has some web information for Frank, where it talks about Frank. It has the gallery person for Tony, for Anthony Friedkin. And of course it has Craig's contact information for Charles Brittin. So feel free to take a sheet if you need to off the back table. Any other questions before we end? for tonight. But Teddy brought some other photographs besides the 2 images up there. I put, as I said, a few of the portrait images that Frank took of the children and me when we were young. You may not touch again. And he can show you some other things. He has a portfolio up here, and he can show you some of some other great shows. A smattering again. Yes, do it now.
Okay.
Yes, do it now, because other people will be coming in. I have another show. 8th of September 2009, and I'm doing the slideshow, similarly to what I did, the same slideshow per se, but as in July 2005 for Venice's 100th, as I did my book. But this is our Frank Talbott, your dad. And this is one print that he did in many of the shoots with me, and the shoots of our the children, David and Aaron and Anna, in 76, 80, and 85. When they were 11, 12, 15, 16, and 20, 21. And then here's the poster, although it may glare because it's been laminated on the fridge here at PRT 703 Venice Boulevard in Venice, and PRT, Pacific Resident Theater, is almost 25 years old next May. Nationally famous company, but we are not paid. We pay into it. And so then Frank, come over here. I'll put this down carefully. And then this is just my little book setup for people the few copies that are left. A non-profit book, believe me. A seashore memoir celebrating Venice 100th anniversary, 1905 to 2005. Illustrated, written, designed, and published by moi. And here is this little pen and ink drawing, well, a reproduction of course, of Frank's and Pat's 2312 Ocean Avenue, looking straight west down Canal home in Venice, one of their several homes. And Frank had many studios here. And of course, Teddy remembers this house, I think, extremely well.
Oh, yeah.
That's enough, I think, for now. Great.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, thanks. Thank you.
We're taking pictures of you, Maryjane.
Really? At the concessions, which I do here a lot.
Want to?
For what that's worth. Thanks, Anne.
Yeah, I did a little late.
Oh, you're standing out here? Can you see it?
Yeah, I got a little.
You're getting one. Oh, right. Yeah, I think so.
Well done.
Beautiful.
Well, good.
Yeah, and it's funny because right before that also
Very much.
so they pretty much just throw you shifts in between the time. Oh, absolutely.
3 months. Hey, did you ever get Christmas?
Yeah, I remember it for a while.
Thank you for having us. Thank you, babe. Thank you. Marge, now where are we going? I have to talk to you to see where we're going to stay. Otherwise, we have to find a place for you. Thank you for your support.
Oh, absolutely.
Good night, it's wonderful, girls.
Did you want me to sit with your book?
No, nobody's up with it. Goodbye, and thanks.
Thank you.
Nice work.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad.
I'm so glad that you told me about it. I would never have known.
I know nobody would know. What a lovely, generous lady. Thank you. Really. I was just, it's so nobody else has it to me.
I do have to share that.
Well, it's, but mostly I have to get permission. These are my slides, but there's the top is where I can't do it. So, yeah, it's great.
You're gonna do well.
Okay, thanks. Ted, thank you. Thanks.
I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Give a big hug to the coconut.
I shall. Very good.
Always been tell me something. They have. They have.